Hi, and welcome back to Choose and Rise, a podcast about growth, faith, and transformation. My name is Dr. Carolyn Kennedy, and I'm your host, and I am so glad that you're here tonight. The last time that we came together, I had an awesome co host, a good friend of mine named Paula Nelson, who joined me as we talked about rising with grief, not from it, but with it. So, in today's episode, I kind of want to pick up on that, but not just about grief. This episode is titled My Journey, My Pace. And so when we think about whether we're rising with grief or if we're thinking about our journey to a career that we're working toward or a relationship that we're in or the journey to lose weight and get into shape or whatever the case might be, whether it's just our faith walk and getting stronger and deeper in our faith, if it's about healing from past hurt or maybe even physical healing, and we think that maybe we should be on a certain path or at a certain pace. I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. I want to start first by telling you about this time in my life when I first decided that I wanted to be an author, when I first embraced the idea of publishing my first book. I remember telling a colleague, very excitedly, by the way, that I decided I was going to be a writer. And of course, he said, "Oh, well, have you written anything?" And I started talking about my dissertation. He says, "But have you published anything?" And I excitedly explained how my dissertation, which, wasn't like the typical dissertation with a lot of numbers and stats and all those type of things, but my dissertation was a qualitative biographical narrative. So in essence, a story, a biography about a person, and that I was publishing my dissertation as a book, also to honor the memory and legacy of the person that I'd written it about. And his response was, "Oh," and not one of those like, "Oh, how exciting," but the kind of, "Oh," that left me feeling like I wasn't doing it right. Left me feeling kinda like my path wasn't the right path. Left me kind of feeling like my pace wasn't right, my method wasn't right, my journey wasn't right, and that it didn't measure up. So maybe you felt that way too. Maybe something in your life you've had where you compared your journey either to something that you internalized and you thought was the right way, or maybe those outside of you led you to feel that your journey or the way that you were doing things either wasn't the right way or wasn't the right path or the right pace. Kind of like what we talked about in our last episode, how people talk about how we should be over grief or how long it should take us to come to grips and to accept and go through that whole grieving process. And understanding that, as we talked about last time, not everyone does that in the same way. And understanding that your pace is just that. Your pace is your pace. And that's not just okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. So my good friend Paula, the one that joined us last time, she and I and a few other friends, Jill and Judy and a few other people, we've done a lot of 5Ks together. You know that thing where you get together outside and you pay somebody to allow you to walk outside, just so you can get the T-shirt or the medal, and you walk 3.1 miles, not just 3 miles, but 3.1 miles, right? So when you think about that journey and when you think about a race, absolutely you're thinking about a pace. Now, by no means am I the traditional runner, not by any means. I absolutely walked the 5K. Now, granted, I ran the finish line because the pictures, you have to, right? But I'm what I would refer to, or I guess I would say I was, because I haven't done a 5K in a while now, but I'm what I would refer to, or I had referred to as a wogger. So I kind of walked and jogged, more walking than jogging. But all along the journey, all along the routes, whenever we were doing the 5K, I would always look to the side, look to the other side, and look behind me. So I knew straight forward that I wasn't going to be at the front because there were real runners at the front, right? So I wasn't even comparing myself to them. But I was still comparing myself to other people, the other walkers, and I was looking to make sure that I wasn't gonna be the last one. I wanted to make sure that when I finished, that I wasn't the last one to cross the finish line. But if you think about it, why did it matter? Why should it matter? What should have mattered was, Carolyn, you're not on the couch, right? If I'm up and walking, whether I'm the last person to cross that line or not, I crossed the line. I shouldn't have been worried about comparing myself to everyone else that was in that 5K. But we do that. Well, I shouldn't say we. I do that. I have done that. And I think I really need to be conscious of understanding that we're not intended to compare ourselves, our journey, our pace to anybody else. We each have our own journey to walk. We each have our own maze to wander through, get lost in, to take that next step in, to figure out where it is that we're supposed to go next, to figure out where my right foot goes after my left foot. It's not about someone else's journey. It's not about matching pace with somebody else. It should be about my journey, right? Your journey. It should be about comparing what you did to what you did before. Did you make this time better? Even just a little bit. That whole idea of a PR, and yes, I did get excited when I PR'd, but that whole idea of a PR, that personal record, your best record, that should be what I'm driving towards instead of worrying about looking left and looking right and seeing who's next to me, who's behind me, who's in front of me. So if we think about, and there's even a Bible verse that goes along with it, if we think about Galatians 6, 4, and 5. In Galatians 6, 4, and 5, the Bible talks about each one of us should test our own actions, and each one of us should carry our own load. And it's not about looking at and comparing ourselves to what somebody else is doing. And maybe they did it quicker. Maybe they did it better. Maybe they did it stronger. Maybe, they didn't stumble as many times. But what does it matter? It's about the progress, not about perfection. It's about the journey, what we learn along the way. It's about hopefully who we bring along the journey with us and who we help to rise as we are learning to rise. About those who help us to thrive, those who see us, those who hear us, and about understanding and seeing and hearing yourself and appreciating every step along the way, even if it's 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. It's about the journey, and it's about embracing the idea that our journey matters. Too many times I think we allow ourselves to get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses. When we log on to social media and we think about all the things and all the likes and the loves and the positive notes, and then what happens if someone doesn't like my post? What happens if someone doesn't think that what I did was important? And we compare ourselves to everyone else's posts that are out there. And we know, deep down, we know that what we see online isn't the whole picture. What we see online is just the snippets that they chose to share. It's not the dirty truth. It's not the everyday. It's not all of the different things that actually happen. It's just that one little snapshot. That one little snapshot that makes everything look perfect. But that's not reality. Not theirs, not yours, not mine. And so when we compare ourselves to that supernatural, perfect snapshot and think that that's the way that life is supposed to be, we can sometimes set ourselves up for disappointment, set ourselves up for self-doubt, set ourselves up for set ourselves up for failure and for disappointment because we're trying to live up to a snapshot that looks perfect. We're trying to live up to someone else's life, and that might not be what's meant for us. So I think that it's important that we think about and that we embrace our own journey and understanding that we do things in our own time, and that's okay. Understanding that the pace that we set for ourselves is our pace. It's not a race. It's not a 5K. And when we think about this is kind of what led me to talk about in a previous episode where I talked about the compass seasons. So this is kind of where this all comes from for me. The idea that it's about we all go through life in our own way, not on some linear track where we're in a race with somebody else and that we've got to reach this step and then this step and this step. No, we go through life in seasons, you guys. We go through seasons of rising, through reflecting, through renewal, and through thriving, and understanding that we can be in two different seasons at the same time in different parts of our life. It's not about, I've reached this point and now I've succeeded. So when I think about my journey, my pace, it's okay if I'm not where somebody else is. I've got a group of author friends. We just recently did a book signing, and it was so refreshing for us all to come together, and we're all in different places. We've got some of us that have just started on the journey, and others that have already published 10, 12, over a dozen books. We've got some that have been recognized on national scenes for the things that they've written, and we've got others that are still figuring it out. We've got some that are just self-published, some that are just traditional published, some that are doing a hybrid of both. And it's not about any of us comparing our journey to each other. It's about us each celebrating what each one of us is doing. And it's a wonderful thing because each of us have our own journey. Each of us have our own pace. And we celebrate that and we recognize that. And I'm working towards being able to do that in other areas of my life as well. Whether it's speaking, whether it's coaching, whether it's my 9 to 5 job, or I should say 7 to 5, because it's definitely not 9 to 5. If it's in my 7 to 5 job of working with children and working with adults and supporting children, understanding that we all do this in our own way and at our own pace, and that's okay. And it's not just okay; that's the way it's supposed to be. I think that it's important that we understand. And when I keep saying we, I'm preaching to myself, you guys. So bear with me for a second. So when I keep saying we and understanding that it's okay for we to think and for us to understand and accept, I'm preaching to myself. I often question the decisions that I've made. When I decided to go into business and I decided that I was going to start a business and the whole idea that I'm spending a whole lot more than I'm bringing in, a whole lot more than I'm bringing in. And I keep on thinking about, well, I should be doing this by now, or I should be realizing this by now, or I should have this many clients in my life coaching. I should have this many public speaking engagements already. I should. And I just need to stop. Who says I should? Who says I should? Why do I constantly think and why do I constantly measure myself against some invisible idea of where I should be? If I can stop and find joy in what I'm doing, and I can, it's okay. It's okay. It's my journey, my pace, and it's okay. It's okay if I haven't published as many books as I would like to publish. I just started. It's okay if I don't have as many clients in my life coaching as I would like to. It's okay. It's okay if I haven't stood on as many stages and had an opportunity to pour into as many people as I would love to be able to pour into. It's okay. It's okay. As the good book says, everything has a season, and everything that's supposed to happen will happen when it's supposed to happen, right? If we think about the whole idea of measuring ourselves up against some imaginary finish line, some imaginary stopwatch of saying that, the time, the clock is clicking or the clock is ticking, not clicking, ticking, and we should be further along than we are. I have to remind myself in Philippians 1:6, it says, "He who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion." He who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion. He never said in my timetable. He never said in the way that I see it, or the way that I want it to be, when I want it to be, how I want it to be. My timetable's not his timetable, and my ways are not his ways. And that's the way it's supposed to be. It's hard sometimes to slow down, to take that pause, take that deep breath, and just accept the fact that life is gonna life. Life is gonna life, you guys. It's a maze, right? Life is a maze. And we'll find the next exit, we'll find the next corridor when we're supposed to, in his timing, not in ours. So when we think about, we each have a journey, we each have our own calling, and the way that we chose to embrace that, that's our choice. And I'm going to choose to rise, and I'm going to choose to learn to thrive, one good hello at a time. And I'm going to learn to pause. I'm going to learn to take my time, and I'm going to learn to find joy in the journey, not just joy in breaking through on the finish line, but joy in the journey. Because the journey matters, and it's my pace. So let's, in the night or in the day, depending on what time you're watching this, as we always do, with one good hello to give. And so for this week, or for this episode, the one good hello for you to give, take a moment, you guys. Take a moment to reflect on one area of your life where you need to give yourself permission to slow down, permission to pause, permission to find joy in the journey without comparison to anybody else's pace, without comparison to anybody else's success, anybody else's ruler, anybody else's measure. For even the one that you set for yourself that might not be realistic, take time to pause, take time to reflect, and then choose to rise with grace. Find joy in the journey at your pace, because that's what matters. And your pace is okay. So until next time, continue to choose to rise as we learn to thrive together, one good hello at a time. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.